Hello, welcome back to Hunter Tune. Today we're going to be working on this EF single cam with the eBay turbo kit, and we're going to see what it can do and try to push it to, the guy wants to make like 250 wheel horse, which I feel like should be doable on this sort of size turbo. But we will see if the turbo can live and actually make it through a full dyno session. There is one thing I did want to mention in the beginning of the video, guys. If anybody is out there tax time balling right now, I might be having a sale on my website. I haven't came up with the sale quite yet, but I do want to help some of you guys out that are looking for parts. If you guys need anything, and I'm saying anything Honda related, I mean even LS related, if you guys need parts, get a hold of me. I can get anything from like fuel injectors to turbos. Obviously the VS Racing stuff is all we run. I sell injectors all the time, and I also am now like a Speed Factory dealer. So anything you guys see on Speed Factory's website, whether it's manifolds, intercoolers, piping kits, you name it, I'm slowly adding more stuff to my website. You know, I actually just added a few things last night, like the 3-port Mac valves that I stock now, and the 4-port boost controllers that I stock now. I started doing more services with chipping, boost by gear components, VTEC kits, etc., etc. Check out the website. I did add a few more things. I will be adding more as time goes on. I don't know how this thing's still got gas in it. We are actually going to be putting E85 in it and tuning to its full potential. So we're going to be limited by the turbo. And possibly the clutch. So we're gonna see what we can find, or what we can do today. But first we have to get all the pump gas out of this thing. So we hooked up a hose to the return off the fuel pressure regulator, and we are just running it, instead of it going back to the tank, it'll go into this gas can. And once it's all completely out, we will pour the E85 in and do some changes on the tune. So once we do that, we'll get it spun back up on the dyno, and we'll see what we can do with this car today. Still running. Oh, they'll run for a while with pretty much nothing in the return. It ain't lean yet. All right, so we just got the E85 poured in the gas tank here, and we just put like a couple, 5-6 gallons in. Should be enough to get it tuned up.
Couple to a tree.
And now I went into the Honda tuning suite, and pretty much all I'm doing to convert for the ethanol for now is just add like 40-50% into the overall fuel trim correction here. So I did that, and then this thing is running the decapped injectors, so we're running a 750cc size. You can do this a few different ways. You can go through and you can actually change the injector size to a smaller injector, like a 40% smaller injector, and that will do the same thing as adding say 40 or 50% to the overall fuel trim. So like I said, you can do it either way. I like just using the overall trim. It's a little easier for me. So now that we did that, the car actually starts up and runs with the E85. If you did no change, it would probably still run. It just would not run very good. It would run very lean. So yeah, now we're just going to drive the car and see where it's going to need even more fuel than what we added into the overall trim, because it will need more in some certain spots and it will need tuning. So I'm just going to run through the fuel map and drive the car for a little while and get it ironed out and safe. Cruising. And once the cruising is done, we'll move on to some light throttle, mid throttle, full throttle, do all that. And once we get this thing up and ripping and we can do some pulls, we will update you then.
Oh shit.
So start that.
Is this on? Are we on? Are we filming? Are we filming?
Yeah.
Okay,
yep,
good.
Yep.
All right. All right.
Oil level's good.
Alright guys, so we did one pull, just the baseline, 153 on 11 pounds.
That's pretty weak, bro.
Yeah. Hunter's going through it. I think he's gonna turn it up and see.
Change the tune up a little bit.
So I'm leaning it out a little because before VTEC it was rich. And I also put 2 degrees in the whole map with the E85. That was still on the pump gas timing, and we're just gonna add 2 degrees, and all I did was take a little fuel out before VTEC. So if it picks up everywhere, we're gonna know that it's liking the timing. Yeah, this is a pretty small turbo, so I don't want to cram a whole lot of timing in it down low. I'd rather bring all the timing in up top to give it more of a power band, because this thing is kind of like a real peaky power where it'll come up really fast and then just fade away. And where it fades away, I'm going to try to give it a whole bunch of timing and see if it likes it. If it doesn't like it, obviously I'm not going to, but we just have to play with the timing. And the fuel's already pretty close, but I am slowly dialing that in as well. But we're going to give her another go. Let her rip!
Just skid.
This was all really
fell off up top.
This was all really rich before, and I took out like 8% of fuel right here, and it picked up how much difference right here, right in the middle. 157 foot-pounds.
Let's call it 160.
160 foot-pounds to 15 foot-pounds of torque just from a couple percentage of fuel right there. And then up here, this is all just a timing change, so it did pick up
155
everywhere up here too, and I didn't even touch the fuel up top. In the car, it was reading leaner than it was the pull before, and I did not touch the fuel up in the VTEC area, so that means that it did like the timing. So I'm gonna splash in even more fuel down low, or not down low, I'm gonna splash in some more fuel up top, and it might actually help even more up top. So we're gonna try that, and then we'll get to turning the boost up on this thing, because it needs some boost. Yeah, so like coming into it, I stood it up at like a 12.5 air fuel.
Yeah.
I could probably add in a little bit through here, but up top it's...
Right.
Yeah, we'll add in a little bit.
This is what I was saying though. So if we get rid of the air fuel.
Oh, this is the boost curve that the car has.
Yeah. It stands up at like 12 pounds and then flatlines to 10.
Yeah.
So
that could be something with the boost controller that's in here, or it could be just the fact that it's a small turbo.
Right. But I didn't.
Because the exhaust housing can't keep up at higher RPM.
Right.
But we'll try. This will get worse the more we turn it up.
Right.
With the small turbo. But we'll try, and we'll just try to give it some really fat mid-range, and he'll really like that.
Yeah.
That'll be wonderful. All right, so I'm going to splash in a little fuel. Yeah, try.
Two goldfish are in a tank, right?
Yeah.
The other goldfish looks at the other goldfish and says, anyone know how to drive this thing?
Well, you gotta do it one more time. That's a good one.
Oh, that's Hunter. Hunter! Two goldfish are in a tank, okay?
Yeah.
The other goldfish looks at the other goldfish and says, you know how to drive this thing?
Oh, like that fish bowl?
The tank.
Oh, yeah.
The tank, get it? The tank. You're just.
Like a tank.
I used to have a Saab and I called it.
Did ya? It was because it was a tank.
Set at 20 and we turned it up a little bit. We don't know how much it is. So we're gonna test her out and see what happens. And this should go without saying, but you want your boost cut set right where you want to be or a little above where you want to go. So you don't over boost it. And you come way hard in.
Too much fuel to play it safe, because if you turn boost up and fuel runs away, you know, the other way,
right,
you want to make sure you're good.
I picked up a lot around like $5 grand.
Yeah, that's how this turbo is. It's
like
gonna peak and then come up. It's like a
30 horse
like
from the first run.
Let's give it another go.
This will be 18, peak down or drops down to 13.
Well, if it, no, it's everywhere. Yeah, so, yeah, 35, 34, you're at 11.0. At 4, you're at 11.0. At $5 grand, you're at 10.5.
So it's just a really inconsistent turbo, or do you think that boost controller is from the boost controller?
No, it's just fuel. Oh,
You're talking about the fuel, I'm talking about the boost. How
Boost
it's 16 and then it drops all the way down to
45, it drops down to
13.
13 and 55.
That turbo, or you think that's...
No, it's turbo.
It could be turbo, manifold, wastegate controller. It could be a
Right.
Right.
We're just working with what we got.
No, but at 153 horse, we were at a peak of 11.5 pounds to where the last rip was 18 pounds.
Okay, so what we're looking at now, guys, is we're slowly turning the boost controller up, and we're gonna just kind of see where the turbo doesn't want to give us any more boost, or where the setup kind of maxes out. This is an extremely small turbo, so it's not giving us a whole lot of horsepower per pound, like say, when we add a pound of boost on a big turbo car, like a GTX 3582 or something like that, we're gonna see about a 10-ish horsepower gain per pound of boost. This car is giving us about, I would say, 5 horsepower per pound of boost because of the size. That's just because that turbo, you know, it only makes a certain amount of airflow.
It's a torquey turbo, not a horsepower turbo.
For that too, but you can see how the curve comes up. It stands up it makes its peak torque below 5,000 RPM, and then just kind of starts to plummet downward because the boost falls off up top. So we're just going to kind of keep giving it as much boost as we can until I would think that this setup could make, 230, 240.
That's where I would say it.
And I think that's where we will park it. That's our goal that we're going to shoot for. We have a super conservative tune in it right now with very rich air-fuel ratio, like 1050 air-fuel. So that is definitely hurting power. But like I said, we want to get the boost to where we want it. I'm keeping an eye on the turbo. And you guys can see here, we started off at 153 horsepower on like 10 pounds of boost. Then we added a little bit, we added a little bit, we added a little bit, and we can consistently see it going up by like 5 horsepower increments. And here we jumped up like, I don't know, 3 or 4 pounds, and it picked up 15 wheel.
For where?
And then another pound here, we picked up another 5 horsepower. So
here, right there. Then we do this fancy thing, and we turn that there. Yeah, so that you're going from 13 pounds to 18 pounds, or 13 to 16.
13 to 16.
And picking up 15.
Exactly,
so,
5 horsepower, just like I said. Yep. So we're just going to make sure that we can consistently keep making that 5 horsepower per pound, and whenever it starts to not make that, that's when we got to stop, because that's when we're going to start overworking the turbo and hurting this little $100 eBay turbo. So this is like a really small turbo, guys, like I was saying, and I am actually just kind of inspecting everything, making sure we don't have any oil leaks on the turbo. The turbo is spinning very well, and it doesn't have any shaft play, so we're just going to keep going. I feel like I'm pretty confident in turning it up a little bit more. So like I said, timing is super conservative right now. I think the timing is around 14 degrees or something like that. Super low timing. I feel like this thing will actually take a lot of timing because it's such a small turbo. So, but like I said, we're gonna get the boost happy and then work on our fuel and timing afterwards. For now, it's conservative to get the boost set where we want it. Need a light. Grab a flashlight quick. Alright guys, so we had a little bit of a failure on the dyno.
Just a little.
And I kind of expected something like this to happen. Even though this thing was actually doing pretty decent. Actually it wasn't really doing that decent, but yeah.
Oh yeah, they move separate.
So T-Bag is in here. I can't really see what you're doing, T-Bag. Let me see.
Just moving the shaft with the pliers.
Move your hand a little bit. So the turbo, the wheel is fine, but the shaft separated from the wheel itself. So you guys can probably see, right there, this shaft that the wheels are connected to, the wheel spins separate from the shaft. So the shaft broke on this turbo.
Same thing that happened to mine.
So Christian, back when, hey, oh yeah, hang on. Ooh, come back out. There we go.
Yeah, when I went through 4 in a year, I went through 4 of these eBay turbos.
Yep.
And this is the exact same thing that happened to all of them.
Okay, yep. See if you can get that on camera. Ready?
Hang on. I got it. Your hands like in
I know,
the
I'm
way.
gonna spin it. Move it. Ready?
Yeah, shaft don't move.
Do it again. See that? The wheel spins, but not the shaft. Oh. Yep.
I think she'll take 10 more pounds. I think so.
So I really don't think that we were stressing this thing that hard. 200 horsepower is not that much airflow from a turbo, but this thing couldn't even barely do that. So it peaked like 19 pounds of boost and exploded. And 19 pounds, even on like a T25, like a stock Saab turbo, would be making like 240, 250. But this eBay Chinese turbo is not that great. This is exactly why I stopped using the basic eBay kits and started doing all my stuff runs a VS Racing turbo from huntertune.com. There's a reason I don't sell these turbos anymore. Or actually, I never sold these turbos, but I used to say like eBay kit, you know, it'll get you by, but it does not do the job, plain and simple. So this is just coming from experience. We've dealt with this stuff time and time again. And like I said, we were just doing what the customer brought us, and we were doing our best, but our best was not enough for this turbo. So,
Unless you want 140 horse.
yeah, it probably would have been reliable at like 140 horse, which if you put a header on it, it'd probably make 130. So yeah, I did actually fair warn the customer when we put this thing together. He just wanted to try it and see how this went. But at the end of the day, by the time we install it and by the time we tune it with this turbo and by the time we do all this stuff, you know, I actually offered to sell him the parts that I recommended, and we just went with this. But hopefully now we'll get the right parts on this thing and make proper power. But because by the time you install this stuff, you could have probably just bought the parts in the first place and been fine. But that's how it goes sometimes. I do stuff on a budget all the time, but there's certain things that I spend money on, and a couple of those things are really crucial in situations like this. So that sucks. We had to cut this short, but yeah, our peak power was like 210 foot-pounds of torque and 200 horsepower, and that was on the pole that it blew up. The turbo blew up. The motor's fine, but the turbo just fucking exploded. The shaft blew up, and now everything is gonna have to come back apart. So that sucks. Yeah. So we did want to clarify that this is really just a part failure. This wasn't anything to do with tuning or anything else with the setup, really. This was literally just a turbo failure. And we actually had everything data logged on the dyno here, and we were making good boost until we weren't. Right. Air fuel was perfect. I mean, go down to the air fuel here. 12.0 air fuel coming into it, and then like up top we were doing like an 11.5 air fuel, yeah. 11.0. And
we were at 20 pounds.
Yeah, it peaked 20, which and it made what? 200, not even 200 horsepower, man.
193.
193 horsepower. That just shows how inefficient this turbo was. The timing was synced perfectly. We had a decent amount of timing in it where it should at least make over 200 horsepower. We weren't being that conservative, but yeah, like I said, that's just how she goes sometimes. Oops. Thanks for watching the video, guys. We'll pick up in another video coming soon. We're going to throw the purple car on the dyno here in the next video, and probably work on T-Bake's truck because it's a pile of junk.
T-Bake, the turbo explodes as we're sitting fucking on the side of the line to see if there's a ranch.
So have a great night and a better tomorrow, guys. We will see you later.
It's not a pile of junk.